Welcome back to the Pro Football Hall of Fame for another edition of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Before the Snap series. If this is your first time tuning in, what are you about to see? What are you about to hear? Well, there's a few things we'd like to tell you. First off, you're going to learn what it takes to have a career in and around the NFL. You're going to learn, what a career looks like, what are some day-to-day things that our special guests do, and what it takes to get those jobs. If you've already tuned in with the program with us before, obviously you know you're in store for another excellent program. As always, my name is Jake Gray. I'm the Youth Education and Leadership Manager here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, where it's our mission to honor the greatest of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence together. And those values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty, all of which made our 378 Hall of Famers the best football minds, best football players, businessmen out there. But it made them great individuals as well, great members of their community. Truly can make you a great student and makes everybody on this here live stream today the greatest person and member of an organization that they can be. Before we get started today, and introduce our two special guests. We got a 2-for-1 special today. I'd like to give out some thank yous. First, we'd like to thank all the educators and professors that are watching this live in their classroom right now or sent this out to their students. Just thank you for allowing us to be a small part of your students' learning experience. And secondly, we have to thank the students. As always, we're here to answer your questions. I've got a lot of questions ready to ask, but nobody wants to hear me ask my questions. We want to hear all the great questions that the students have today. This is an opportunity for you to start your networking journey with people who are currently working in and around the NFL. So don't take, we want you to take advantage of this. We want you to ask your questions. So as always, if you're watching this live right now, go ahead in the live chat there on the live stream on YouTube, put your school and your name. Let us know where you're watching from. We want to see all the great universities and colleges out there we can have tuned in. And if you have a question, go ahead and ask. We want to ask your question. We will do our best to make sure all the questions asked in the chat are a part of the program. So I'll be reminding you periodically throughout the program today to make sure you're getting those questions in. But first and foremost, let's see how many colleges and universities we can get tuned in here for the program today. So lastly, we like to thank our special guests today, both whom work for the Indianapolis Colts, both Matt Conti and Christian Edwards. First, Matt Conti enters his 13th season with the Indianapolis Colts and the first as the team's VP of Football Communications. He originally joined the team in 2011 as a football communications manager and has worked in NFL public relations staff for 6 combines, 3 AFC championship games, and a Super Bowl. His professional experience also includes 2 years as a public relations intern for the hometown Northeast Ohio Cleveland Browns after he graduated from Penn State in 2005. We're also fortunate to have Christian Edwards with us here today. He was in his 9th season with the Indianapolis Colts and his first as director of football communications. Previously served as the assistant director of communications and public relations assistant with the team. He has worked 7 Super Bowls, 3 conference championship games, and 5 NFL combines. Graduated magna cum laude from the University of North Florida with a bachelor's degree in sport management in 2013. So Matt and Christian, welcome to Before the Snap.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us, Jake.
Yeah, we are super excited to hear from both of you today about your career. So first, Matt, your bio was first, so we'll just go in that order. Matt, can you tell us a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis with your job there with the Colts?
Yeah, absolutely. Easiest thing to say is we're like the link between the team and the media, right? As you all know. So we work closely with our local and national media. I think in my specific role, I'm kind of responsible for keeping our ownership, our general manager, our head coach, and our players informed on media narratives and themes throughout the year. So I'll handle a lot of media requests when it comes to the football side of the building. In addition to that, kind of develop those media strategies and talking points. We'll schedule and facilitate interviews. And I think a lot of that goes beyond just the regular season. The NFL does a great job making football, a full year event. So we'll do the same thing through the combine, free agency, our league meetings, which we just had down in Orlando, the draft, OTAs, training camp. So we're doing this year round, which is great. It's great for the game. But yeah, there's a plethora of things that we do, but obviously work closely with Christian on a lot of these matters, and I'll assist him with interviews, with players, and we'll pitch stories to our media. I'll assist in our team publications, our media guide, our weekly release, and then we help our staff in other areas. Anything from the injury report to credentialing to, so one great part about the job is no 2 days are the same, right? But we have a really good team in Indy, so it's kind of all hands on deck. But that's a very quick overview.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Christian, same goes to you. Obviously, both being in the same department, I'm sure there definitely are some similarities and shared duties. But Christian, can you talk a little bit about within your specific role, what you handle on the day-to-day basis there with the team?
Yeah, I mean, so Matt, of course, gave, good overview, of our whole department. A lot of those, of course, assisting him in his kind of core responsibilities. But yeah, my role handling a lot of the media requests for our assistant coaches and our coordinators, handling a lot of our written materials, whether it comes to press releases or advisories that go out to the media, anything from roster moves to team statements to even some community and corporate aspects as well. So a lot of the written materials, as Matt mentioned, the injury report. I mean, definitely like our department, we wear a lot of hats, and we support a lot of parts of the building, the business side, the football side, and just in communications in general, it's just making sure that we're sticking to our brand identity, representing the organization the best manner possible, and just passing along necessary messaging, to our players, our coaches, our support staff, just making sure that we align with that brand integrity.
Christian, we'll stick with you here for this question as well. Was this a job you always envisioned yourself having, or was there this kind of a path you didn't really know about until you kind of got in those later stages of your college years, eventually, as a young professional within, the world of communications?
Yeah, no, I knew pretty early on. I was fortunate. My father was in sport communications for a long time, and specifically the NFL. So I grew up in and around it ever since I was a kid, and so I knew how fortunate it is to be a part of the NFL. I think also what was unique in my perspective is I knew a lot of the challenges that came along with the position, whether it was, I mean, the time commitment. We spend a lot of time away from our family and friends and loved ones, just pursuing our career. And I was fortunate to be in and around it at a young age, and knew early on, even back to probably middle school, that I wanted to pursue sport communications in some aspect. But yeah, fortunate to be around it my entire life, and I'm fortunate to still be in it. So
Awesome. And Matt, same to you, but I want to take a different spin on it. Talk a little bit about, how important was it for you to have that internship with the Browns and kind of get your feet wet a little bit in the communications world. And now eventually, you're at the VP level, have obviously grown and, really honed in on that communication skill. So how important was it for you to get that internship right out of college?
Yeah, and you know what? I'll actually take it a step back. At Penn State, I did not really know NFL internships were a possibility. I just didn't know what was available until I spoke to one of kind of our mentors and our one of our academic advisors. And just to date myself, the Browns had sent a fax to all of the Big Ten schools looking for interns who had worked with a bigger football program. So I was a student assistant in the athletic communications department, thinking college was the route I was going to go until the Browns had sent that fax. I answered the fax, interviewed in Cleveland, was fortunate enough to get that job. And then just to talk about how competitive the field is, there was nothing full-time that was available. You got to remember 32 jobs, right? So there was nothing full-time available. I sent a note to every single NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, and NHL team. Just I was going all out, and college too. I had no takers. So I spent another year as an intern with Cleveland. I was fortunate enough they gave me some more responsibility. And then finally, that my first full-time opportunity opened in Atlanta. So it comes down to just how much experience you can get to kind of set yourself apart from others, and then being patient and understanding how competitive it is and not getting frustrated and just kind of keeping your foot in the door, right? And fortunately, the Browns, they really afforded me the opportunity to do that. I'm very thankful for my experience there.
Awesome. Well, we usually wait to do this later in the program, but we got a lot going on here in Canton, Ohio today. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, part of what we do here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame is, we honor the greatest of the game, 378 of the best football players' minds, players to ever, be in the game of football. And we preserve its history because at our core, we are a museum. We're preserving the history of the game, this great game from when it started in the 1800s all the way up to, we have things on display from last Super Bowl, last NFL season. So we're doing our best to preserve the full timeline. And a part of that, is preserving maybe when some records get broken. And, working for the Colts, you guys, with your times there, have had some pretty great players. So with that being said, and not trying to give away too much of the surprise, I want to throw it out to Jerry Shockey, the Director of Youth Education and Leadership, Senior Director of Youth Education and Leadership here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, who's in front of one of those records that was broken. So Jerry, whenever you're ready, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Jake. And Christian and Matt, thank you for taking time out of your busy days to connect with students across the country, students that are connected in, college students. What an awesome opportunity it is to, number one, just learn more about the industry, but then number two, take advantage of the networking opportunities. Make sure you get to those LinkedIn profiles and things like that. Start your networking. I just encourage you to take advantage of every opportunity you can do this before the Snap series. So I want to welcome you guys to the Pro Football Hall of Fame Gallery. Now, this is one of the most popular galleries in the museum, especially for our younger visitors, because fans get to see items from the players they get to watch on Sunday. And sometimes if it's a record we can plan for, we've actually had that record-breaking jersey or football within 24 hours on display here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It was not long ago that Indianapolis Colt Adam Vinatieri set the NFL's all-time scoring record on October 28th, 2018. And at the end of the day, he was sitting at 2,550 career points, and he decided to kind of take a picture very reminiscent of the iconic photograph of Wilt Chamberlain after he scored 100 points. And behind me, you can see that, commemorating that moment. Now, a question for you guys, Christian and Matt, working in communications, how do you prepare for, obviously some records can't be prepared for. This one is one that can be prepared for. How do you prepare for and then work to promote anytime a record is broken like this by a Colts player?
Go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, so one aspect in particular, our department is we're always working ahead, always trying to prepare us as best possible. Like you said, there are some records that happen that you don't expect necessarily going in. But yeah, our departments, we set up a document at the beginning of the season of what to look for, of milestones. They could be team milestones, they could be league milestones, for players, for coaches, for the organization. So we start out with that, and we update that weekly. We have a weekly release that Hayden Clark on our staff spearheads, and so he does research every week on the upcoming game and some records that could be broken, and he's keeping tabs on that throughout the game. Him and Matt are up in the press box, we're looking at the broadcast, seeing if there's any milestones that they have that may be upcoming that they're broadcasting. So that's one aspect of our job, is that we have to keep tabs on that and kind of just be prepared for anything. But yeah, so fortunately in that situation with Vinny, you knew it was coming, so we had time. But yeah, and then the iconic picture and everything like that was something that Matt and our content team worked together, just kind of preemptively in some brainstorming. So yeah, no, that's a fun aspect of our job, is kind of projecting what those accomplishments and milestones may be upcoming, and then executing with the promotion on it on the back end.
And I can tell students, typically when we see a record that either we can plan for or else we're contacting the team on Monday, it's typically the PR departments we're contacting to get a hold of them with our great relationship with our PR folks, with all 32 team PR folks. Usually it's these guys that we're contacting to say, hey, helmet, jersey, football, whatever. We'll take something from that record. So thank you, gentlemen, for taking time out of your day. And students, remember to submit your questions on YouTube Live so you can get those potentially interjected throughout the program. So Jake, I'm going to send it back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for that look in there. I had to do the special Adam Vinatieri jersey for our Colts staffers here today. Matt, I want to follow up a question with you. Obviously, you see a record broken. You've been a part of, all these big events. So for you, working all these different events, what do you see as, what was most challenging for you? Or was there an event, maybe your first time stepping your foot into that event, that taught you so much more that you're able to apply to your role as a VP now?
That's a really good question. I would say any kind of crisis communications that we handle always presents the biggest challenge because every situation is unique and different, right? And when you go through a crisis event, you don't want to go through it at the time, but the way you handle it will help you become a better PR professional, right? And let's face it, if you're going through a crisis situation, local and national media are following the story. So you want to make sure you're doing a great job leading your organization through it. I think the obvious one that everyone thinks about with the Colts is Andrew Luck's retirement and the way that shook out. That was a really tough night. Way it leaked. It was during the game. It was obviously not ideal, not how we planned it. But I would even back up a little bit. My first year in Atlanta was 2007, and it was the year Michael Vick unfortunately was it was arrested for dogfighting, and our coach Bobby Petrino at the time, he left us after week 13, went to Arkansas, and so we fought a lot of adversity and challenges during that season. And I think the reason why it's not as as big as maybe an Andrew Luck retirement is because social media wasn't as involved as it was back then. Twitter was in its infancy, or X now, sorry, was in its infancy. So really, you were starting to see the emergence of bloggers and same day stories instead of newspaper stories that would hit the next day. So, but still, being there in Atlanta during that time presented a lot of challenges, and I was really fortunate to be on a great staff. I learned from them, learned how they handled it, and honestly, a lot of lessons that I had in my 3 years there in Atlanta working with the Falcons, I've applied in Indy. But I would also say that something that's really important to me is to rely on your team, and Christian and Hayden, Pam, Steve, and our intern Ricky, we get together. We huddle up, we make decisions, we talk through points. It's got to be a collaborative effort. You can't just have one person making decisions. You have to think about all sorts of different things. So for us in Indy, we are a big collaborative team effort group, and that always helps us get through those situations.
I think that's important. You talk the idea of teamwork, and that's going to segue greatly into my next question. So thanks for bringing that up. And it's good in everything, whether you're in a huddle, you're on a football field, you're in a boardroom, you're in a class group, in a college class, whatever it might be. That idea of teamwork is so prevalent in all of those. So when you look at the game of football, Matt, we'll start with you for this one. Being involved in sports, specifically in the game of football, we talked about those values at the beginning. As somebody who's involved in the game, not as a player or in that football huddle, but as somebody who's still involved in the game, what are those life lessons you see the game of football teach all those who play it, coach it, are fans of it, work in it, that that they can apply to their everyday life?
Yeah, oh man, there's so many. I think one that sticks out immediately is just how to handle adversity. I have a 10-year-old son who plays baseball and basketball, and one of the things I kind of do is I'll listen to Coach Stike and talk to the team in team meetings and talk to him about adversity and life and whatnot. And obviously I scale it down for my 10-year-old, right? He's not playing NFL football, but I take those lessons that I hear from him, and really one of the coolest parts of our job, and I'm sure everyone's heard this, but we work with players, coaches, and staff from all different walks of life, all through different parts of the country, through different parts of the world. And when you come together collectively to achieve one goal, which is to win a Lombardi, but then along the way, you develop these relationships and you learn from individuals, and you learn about different cultures and religions and just different ways of life. I mean, it is one of the most rewarding parts of the job. And I take that personally and apply it to my own family. And I'm very, very fortunate to be in an opportunity to see it and use that in my own life. So, but yeah, when you see players fight through adversity, or when you see players and how they handle success. Those are lessons that I will take and apply to myself and my own family.
Christian, same thing to you. What are some of those life lessons that you've seen that may have impacted your life from the game of football?
Yeah, no, I think kind of following up on what Matt said is I mean everybody has their own story on how they got where they're at, and you know, for some it was easier than others, but everyone it's cool to see everyone reach their dream, and whether you're a player, whether you're a support staff, you're a coach. I mean the honor that comes with representing the league in any capacity, it can be felt across the building. So. I think it's cool to hear stories of guys that, you know, maybe didn't come from the best beginning, but look at where they're at now. And even to kind of piggybacking on that, seeing how guys use their platform for good and you know, helping, you know, people in their communities. One, you know, for instance, on our team, Zaire Franklin is, you know, one of our best players on the field, but he's one of our most philanthropic players off the field. He came from, you know, a tough upbringing, dealt with a lot of adversity in his life, you know, losing his mother, losing his grandmother, losing his aunt within a 10-year window. And all three of those were the matriarchs of his family. And so, you know, very young age, he had to take care of his family, you know, go to college, was a three-time captain at Syracuse, which hadn't happened in like 50 plus years. And, you know, comes here to Indy, starts out seventh round pick, special teams guy, becomes one of our special teams aces, gets some more snaps on defense, steadily builds, you know, his snap count and over the years. And then, you know, last year, well, I should say that the last 2 years, he's established our team single season tackle record each of the last 2 years. And what's even more impressive about Zaire is he hasn't changed. He's the same guy as he was when he walked in the building. And fortunately, a couple weeks ago, we actually had a contract extension with him, and you know, where he was really able to set his family up for you know generations to come. And so it's cool to see a guy come in and just scrap and fight his way to the top. And then when he gets to the top, he's the same guy as he was, and he's just trying to bring others up with him. So so yeah, so that's a cool aspect of it, is seeing guys come in and grow and develop, not only just as football players, but as men as well.
I think it's too, and you guys both are in a very unique role where you're able to highlight those. You know, we think of, you know, giving back to community, and everybody obviously goes to the community relations staff, but you know, there's somebody putting pen to paper or keyboard to computer, I guess nowadays, you know, and to get those stories out. So I think that's a really cool piece that you know, when you think of communications, you know, I think the stereotype is, you know, it's somebody writing stories, you know, speaking behind a microphone, prepping people, but there's so much more that goes to it, and you still get to able to promote all these great things going on. Doing that though obviously takes a lot of work and a lot of time. And one thing that we do know about working in the NFL is that it's not a, you know, 18-week job. You know, it is a full-time, pretty much every day of the year job that you have to work on. So Christian, we'll start with you and just talk a little bit about how you're able to find a work-life balance. And, you know, during the season, we know it's going to be 7 days a week and long days and game days are long. How are you able to balance that out with, you know, your life outside of work? And what are some things you do to make sure you can do that?
Yeah, I mean, like my faith and my family come first in life, and you know, fortunately, I have a family that's very supportive of what I do. You know, I don't call it a career or job; it's definitely a lifestyle, and fortunately, you know, my wife and my kids are 100% supportive of me in that. But I think also too, learning from other people. You know, I was fortunate. My father, uh, you know, really showed me how to balance that, you know, during the season, the hours, and we're working, you know, 7 days a week, working on all the major holidays. But at the end of the day, you know, which I tell my wife, you know, every day is, you know, if I'm not at the office, like I'm where you guys are at. I'm where, you know, my wife and my kids are at. So so I think, you know, being able to learn that from him, and I mean, Matt, of course, has been a great mentor, and not only professionally but personally as well. And so being able to watch him with his young family when I got here in Indy, and to watch him raise his kids and be a great supportive husband and father. Now having a young family of my own, definitely trying to emulate that. But yeah, no, I mean it's challenging from a time perspective, but also too, I mean, our department, we spend more time with one another than we do with our families. So we really do look out for one another. We care about one another. And so we have our own family of our own in the office. So when you love and care about those that you work with, that makes it a lot easier as well.
Matt, same to you. Can you talk a little bit about the work-life balance that has helped you, not only be a great employee, but a great,
Yeah.
Member of your family as well?
Yeah, I would say it's the toughest part of the job is the time spent away from family. And for the students listening now, just know if you want to get in this field, you're going to have to work weekends. You're going to have to work holidays. From the start of training camp in July to the end of the season, hopefully after you win the Super Bowl, it is a 7-day-a-week job. You get a couple days on the bye week, right? We were in Arizona 2 years ago. We played on Christmas night. Had to miss Christmas with the family. My kids were 8 and 6. That was heartbreaking. Like, it's very tough to be away from them. But to Christian's point, my wife, I met her in Cleveland. She's a Cleveland native. She saw me go through it as an intern. She understood what the job entailed and really has been supportive. And again, what Christian said, like, when the season's over, I'm with family, right? We're back here in Philadelphia, where I'm from, with my family now. My son, like I said, he plays baseball. I'm an assistant coach. I coach third base. I lose a lot of games because I send the kids. Like, we're running, right? So, but any waking moment I have that is not in the office, I really am hanging with the kids and my wife. You just have to try to make up that time. And then, it's really important for me. It's when we have the availability in the office. Hey, if it's an off season Friday in March, April, whatever, and you got stuff going on, like, get out of there, go spend that time with your family, make up for it. I'm a big believer in that. You got to get your work done, obviously, but when that's done, then go spend the time with the fam. So it took a little bit when I had kids to first learn that balance, but I'm in a groove now, and the kids a little bit older, which is nice. They have their activities, but definitely the toughest part of the job.
Both of you have been in, your career field for a decent amount of time. So Matt, we're gonna have this question here just for you. In all of your years as a professional, one of the things students look for out of this program is, how do I differentiate myself? You talked about, you're sending letters to all 32 NFL teams, all these other different colleges, which you're probably one of thousands doing that. What is one thing when you're making new hires, whether it be for an intern or somebody in that entry level first time job? What is something that you look for that
Yeah.
makes a applicant stand out?
Yeah, I've got three things. And first and foremost is experience, right? So for students who are in college and have the opportunity to now or at home for an internship, if you take Indianapolis, for example, we have the NCAA, USA Football, Horizon League, Indianapolis Indians, the Pacers, the Field, the Colts. I mean, there's a ton of sports teams there. If you want to get involved in sports, get that experience. US swimming and gymnastics, all of it's there, right? You don't, when you're a college student, you don't have to feel like you have to get NFL experience at that time to be in NFL PR. You need to get athletic communications experience, right? Christian did that. I did that at Penn State. I started when I was in high school. I was really lucky because our family had moved to State College. So I had the opportunity to do that. When we get two resumes and one has, hey, a 4.0 GPA, but I have no experience, like, congrats on your grades. That's awesome. I'm not saying don't study. It's very important to get good grades, but there's a 4.0 GPA resume here and there's a 3.2 GPA, but hey, I've done an internship with the Pro Football Hall of Fame and I've done an internship at the NCAA or whatever. That resume has the edge, right? So experience is extremely important. Try to get as much as you can to help separate yourself from others. Second is you really need to hone in on your references and networking and make those connections, because when it's close, when we have two resumes that are really close, it's the people who are calling on your behalf, which is what's going to put you over the edge. So when you get a job, even if it's not something you like, let's say you're in college and you're a huge men's basketball fan and you go work for the athletic communications office and they said, hey, you got wrestling and field hockey, right? Do the best job you can do at wrestling and field hockey, because it's relevant experience and you're going to make an impression on your supervisor, and you need that individual to make the calls on your behalf. And three, do not put your eggs in one basket, right? Too many times I hear, especially kids locally, you're like, I want to work for the Colts. I want to work for the Pacers. That's awesome. We are one of 32, right? And we had 400 resumes just for our communications internship. You cannot put your eggs in one basket. You have to be willing to move, to relocate, to go where the job is. I struggle with that. When I left Penn State, like I was a Pennsylvania guy. Cleveland, Ohio was not like, I didn't know anything about it. I'd never been, right? And I was like, but I went and I took a chance and I loved it. I met my wife there and it's very blue collar. People there are great. It's a lot like Philly. I had just an unbelievable experience there. I'm so thankful, right? So get out of your comfort zone, take the risk, be willing to relocate because that's ultimately what's going to help you with your job. So those for me are the three big things.
I would agree. Especially that last one there. I am very fortunate enough. Grew up in Northeast Ohio, grew up 20 minutes away from the Hall of Fame, went to college an hour away, got an internship here, got a full-time job here. So, you talk about never going outside the bubble. I've never been in a college or career role, outside of an hour of where I grew up, hour and a half of where I grew up. So that was one
Well, it
thing,
worked for you though. So that's okay.
It did.
It worked for
Did.
if it works for you, that's great. Like if you're from Indy and you get that first position with the Colts, awesome, go for it. I'm not saying don't apply to your hometown teams or whatnot, but as you know, Jake, it's very, very competitive. It's hard. So kudos to you.
I got very lucky.
Congrats.
Looking back, kind of wish I would have spread the wings a little bit and maybe took a job. But wouldn't be here. Wouldn't have met my fiance. Wouldn't be getting married in a couple. So it all kind of works out there in the long run. Christian, I'm going to ask you a very similar question, but from the perspective of the intern. You get that job. You're one of 400. You get the yay, we're going to hire you. When you become that intern, Christian, what are some of the things you did and you've seen other interns do to separate themselves so when it's time to then be the full-time employee that they're set apart from everybody else?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think definitely, I mean, focus on what your core responsibilities are and master those to the best of your ability and don't be afraid to ask for more. In our internship in particular, we have our core responsibilities and a lot of them are, more your mundane tasks, but once our interns master those tasks, then we'll put more on their plate if they want more on their plate. So definitely don't be afraid to ask for more. I think a big thing I did is, I tried to listen more than I talked. I tried to just kind of, see what my bosses were doing, kind of put myself, mentally in situations that they were in. How would I handle this situation? And then, if I felt the need, ask those questions to get more perspective. But no, those were definitely, a couple things. But yeah, and then in our role in particular, in our department, I mean, it's the more you can do. There's a lot of things that we do that may not necessarily fall in communications, but our role is one of service. So, don't be afraid to, when I was in Pittsburgh, I would sometimes go down to the locker room and I'd help the equipment guys, pass out, towels, full towels, put clothes on the rack, that sort of deal. Don't be afraid to just go all in and help in any avenue that you can, because you never know the impression that you can leave on somebody. And it can definitely help you, moving forward down the road in your future.
Now, all of this, getting your foot in the door, making an impact, it all starts with networking, I believe. And that's just a personal belief. The more you can network, the more you're going to grow that network to hopefully open those doors to get your name to the top of the stack, to get you an interview, whether it be for an internship or a full-time job. So Christian, we'll stick with you. Just, talk a little bit about the importance of networking in your life, because it was something that was stressed to me, in college. If people who have seen this before, both Nathan and I have talked about, we didn't do a very good job with that. We were the guys that like, hey, nobody wants to talk to me. I'm just going to hang back, kind of take everything in. But as I've grown into a full-time role in my career, I've seen how important it is to network, especially even once you get a job. So, Christian, can you talk a little about how important it was for you to network as a college student trying to get that internship, or even as an intern within the same organization that you worked for?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, networking is huge. And kind of going back a couple questions, to Matt in regards to, for you college students, definitely, definitely reach out to your sports information departments on campus because they're always looking for help. Don't be afraid to do an internship that doesn't pay anything. You know, when I started out at the University of Central Florida and worked in sports information there, and one year I think I got a polo, and then the other year, you know, I got a small stipend, but I lived there. I lived in the office. I was if I wasn't in the classroom, I was in the sports information office. And one thing that's unique, and I mean, Jake, you can of course attest to this, is just how small the sports world is. And so one of my bosses at UCF ended up knowing he worked with my to-be boss 3 years later, who was my boss with the Denver Broncos, and so they had a rapport, and so those connections are huge, and a big thing that you know, my father, you know, told me growing up was, you know, don't burn bridges, and you know, treat everybody with respect. You know, character is how you treat people who can do nothing for you. And so you just don't know, like I said a little while ago, about the impression that you can leave on somebody, whether it's positive or it's negative. And you know, you know, when we're interviewing intern candidates, you know, over the years, I mean, they could be my boss, you know, down the road. So how you treat people goes a long way. And of course, you know, networking's a part of that. So LinkedIn, of course, is a huge tool that we recommend. But the number of times over the years that I've, you know, there's been high school, college students that have reached out, you know, just cold call or cold email, just, hey, you know, I'd like to learn about you and how you got where you're at. And you know, some of those individuals I still keep up with today, and some pursued sport and, you know, got in the industry, and then some realized that maybe there were other avenues that in other industries that they could pursue that better suited them. So yeah, networking in you know, just relationships. It's a relationship business. It's very important.
Matt, same kind of question to you. Can you talk a little bit about how important it is to network as somebody who's in the industry already? So
Yeah.
you get the internship, you get the entry level, you're working your way up the ladder to, you know, even as a VP, I'm sure it's important to continue networking with your colleagues throughout the league. How important is it for you to continue to network once you're in that full-time role that you might have dreamed of that you wanted to get?
Yeah, extremely important. I'll give you a personal example. So I worked 3 years with the Falcons and then went over to the Atlanta Thrashers, which was the NHL team there at the time. Um, you know, hindsight's 2020, but the team relocated to Winnipeg in Canada after the first season there. So I was 10 months into the job, and then we were out of a job, right? And I was back to square one. Well, when I was with the Falcons, we you know, you play every Sunday and you shake hands with those PR staffs. Well, one team in particular, the New York Giants, their PR guy, Avis Roper, was a guy I met, and one of his cousins was a Falcons player, Roddy White. And before the game or after the game, can't remember. Anyways, I escorted him down to our locker room. We struck up a conversation. He met Roddy. We shook hands, have a great game, and then kept it moving. Well, Avis was the one who filled a head role here and knew I was out of job and called me and said, "Hey, I remember when we worked together that one Sunday. I'd love to interview you for the job." And I mean, I'm telling you, I was like, I had nothing going. And so just networking right there, you know, I could have said, "Hey, let me get an intern to do it. Hey, or hey, I don't have time for you. Sorry." And you know, my future could have been drastically different, right? So it's very, very important. I will give a couple of tips for students out there. When you network, just remember it's great to reach out to as many people and teams as you can, but just also remember one of the tough things I get a lot is when we're done with a call or an interaction. A lot of times I get a, "Hey, you know, do you have an internship available? You know, do you think I can apply, and would I make a good candidate?" It's like, absolutely apply, but one job, right? So we want to network as much as we can, but just make sure you're keeping expectations realistic. The one thing to that I will tell you is a lot of times interns fall through last minute. We had that happen a few years ago, and we sent a note out to a team and we said, "Hey, does anyone have any recommendations?" And a lot of times PR staffs will call and say, "Hey, I just got off a networking call with so and so. They have a really strong background in communications. You should interview them." And that's how a lot of times students will make their way to different teams. So it's really, really important. And then if you are reaching out to network, just make sure that you're being realistic with the schedule as well. I've had students reach out and say, "Hey, can I catch up with you on a call?" Sure. And then the next correspondence is, well, I'm available from 2 to 2:45, and then again from 6 to 6:30. Which one of those works for you? Well, you know, how about just I'm done with class at 6:30 and whatever, so just make sure you're being respectful of everyone's schedule as well. Those little things go a long way.
Now, obviously, we talked about the amount of work that goes into having a career, in any sport, not just the NFL. But on the flip side of that, there are some pretty cool rewards that you get to be a part of. So the one question we like to ask, and we'll ask this to both of you. We'll start with Matt. End of your career, you're kicked back in the lazy boy. Grandkids come up and say, "What is the one event that when you look back on your career up to right now that you go, wow, I can't believe I was there?"
Oh man, they put me on the spot. There's so many. Hopefully one day when I'm retired, it's being part of a team that won a Super Bowl, right? Because that's would be amazing to be part of. I would say nothing is better than a winning locker room. And I've been part of some pretty impactful wins. In 2013, we went to Denver, beat the Broncos to go to the AFC Championship, which was the Deflategate game, the next game. But that locker room was pretty special. We also had a game against the Chiefs at Lucas Oil where we posted the biggest comeback in NFL, second biggest comeback in NFL playoff history. Second half rally, Andrew brought us back, hit TY on that long throw. That was pretty unbelievable to be part of that game as well. So for me, there's so many moments. It's really hard to pick one, but I'd probably say those two wins were really special.
Christian, same to you.
Yeah.
Most biggest moment for you to say, wow, I can't believe I was there.
Yeah, so I mean my first year, 2013, I entered for the Denver Broncos, and of course Peyton Manning, was there, and basically rewrote the record book as far as single season offensive performance with Demaryius Thomas and Wes Welker and Eric Decker and Noshawn Moreno and Julius Thomas, and ended up going to the Super Bowl. Didn't do that well in the Super Bowl, but being able to be a part of that ride, and then even to being able to, even though I didn't work directly with Peyton, but being able to be a fly on the wall around Peyton on the back end of his career. And then 3 years later, I get my first full-time job here in Indy, and being able to, talk with coworkers who were in the building day one when Peyton started here. It was cool to just see his kind of, like I talked about with Zaire a little while ago, just see him coming in and hearing stories about him as a rookie, and then being able to be a part of his career on the back end was really impactful. I mean, 2014, I interned with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and spent a lot of time around Dan Rooney, Mr. Rooney, and just to see the impact that he had on people personally, in the city of Pittsburgh, just the impact that the family has on that region in Western PA. And then of course the league overall, and just to see the gentleman that he was. One responsibility that was pitched to me for the internship was that, sometimes I may have to, drive Mr. Rooney home, and my first day ended up, taking Mr. Rooney, home after work, and I didn't know my way home, but Mr. Rooney was able to get me there, get me to his house, and what started off is like every once in a while developed into probably 4 times a week. I'd take Mr. Rooney home, in my car too. And, the stories that he, shared, and the insight, and, just like I said, the gentleman that he was, had a huge impact on my life. And then actually when I got the internship here in Indy, he actually called Mr. Ursay, and, to vouch for me, which, going back to the networking, it went a long way. I know, and Matt mentioned to me when I got here, Mr. Rooney was my number one reference, and he came through on that. So yeah, those were my first 2 years in the leagues, and still of course have an impact on me to this day. And then from an indie perspective, real quick, was I mean, probably the 2018 season in a nutshell. I mean, we started the season 1-5, ended up winning 9 of our last 10 games, go to the playoffs, win a playoff game. I mean, and like Matt said, like there's nothing like a winning locker room. And just to see all the hard work and dedication that the guys put in every week, and just to see that come to fruition on the field, it's a pretty unique experience. So, yeah, so those are a couple just in my stops along the way.
Awesome. Well, I mean, if it was the world of YouTube it is now, you could have had your own Netflix show or Hulu show. Jerry Seinfeld has one where he's talking to famous people drinking coffee in his car. You had Rooney telling you stories in your car. We could have had your own show. Could have been a different path completely. A few more questions here, and Matt, this one will be for you. Obviously, in the world of sports today, a former Colts punter by the name of Pat McAfee has a hold on a lot of the sports world and is taking a new spin on that. Obviously, if you watched his show before, Matt, your name has come up as someone he works with. So Matt specifically working with, not just Pat, but all of these legends who are looking to still make an impact within the Colts organization. How cool is that for you to see all these players come through who still want to leave an impact?
Yeah, I think it's amazing when you look at just the Colts specifically and the players who have gone on to have post-media careers. I mean, Peyton's Pat's the biggest, obviously, with his show on ESPN. Then you look at Peyton with Omaha Productions. Matt Hasselback has done work on ESPN. Jeff Saturday. You look at Darius Butler now, who does a lot with McAfee. Chuck Pagano's on with McAfee now. I'm sure I'm missing many others, but it is a really cool thing to have worked with these guys and then really, you see their personalities in the locker room and in the building, and then post NFL career they go and dominate in the second career. Really with Pat, like he's the same guy, no ego, just a regular guy that you love hanging out with, right? He's never changed, and when he retired, everyone was like, "Oh man, he's making a bad decision. He's leaving a lot of money on the table." And they'd ask me, I'm like, "Don't bet against Pat McAfee. The guy is driven, and he is going to be successful in whatever he does." And I had no doubt that I didn't think he'd reach this like this early, even like he is, he's mad, but I had no doubt he would eventually hit this point. He's charismatic. He's great. He relates to everyone. Like I said, no ego. He's just your average guy that you want to go out and have a drink with, just hang out with. So I'm really happy for him, and I'm really thrilled I got the chance to work with him in Indy. I think that it was great to create a relationship with him, and love being friends with him.
Awesome. We got time for a couple questions here. Before we wrap up with our final one, we do have a rapid fire segment we like to do. So I got 6 rapid fire questions. We'll go Matt first, and then Christian, you answer after Matt's done. Sound good?
Okay.
All right. Question number 1, LinkedIn. Great way to network or just another social media app?
Great way to network. I'm awful at it. I got to be better. So sorry to anyone who reaches out. I got to get better at it. So,
Yeah, I'm saying it's a great resource, but yeah, I need to be better with checking it.
All right. Number 2, GPA on a resume. Keep it on, leave it off.
Keep it on. Obviously, if it's one, especially you want to highlight. Now, if it's one you're not proud of, you might want to take it off, but no issue with the GPA.
Yeah, I would say to a certain point, if it's under 3, probably would not put it on there. But yeah, I mean, your education, of course, is very important. So, if you're a 4.0 student, you definitely want to have that on there.
All right. Number 3, social media accounts, public or private?
My X account is public because it's more forward facing. Everything else is private. I like to stay behind the scenes. I don't really like to, to post a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, I'm saying my X is public, and then my Instagram, Facebook are private, more family related. So
All right. Number 4, jeans at work. All day, every day, never, only casual Fridays.
Casual Fridays.
casual Fridays. Yeah, they always overdress and read the room, and then decide, moving forward what you should do. But definitely you don't want to be the most underdressed person in the room.
All right. Number 5, coin toss, heads or tails.
Heads.
I'm tails.
And then finally, number 6, you score a touchdown, go to touchdown celebration.
I'm handing the ball to the official. I'm walking off because I'm going to embarrass the heck out of myself if I try to dance or do anything, right? So, out of respect for my family, I'm walking off and I'm going to do it professionally.
Yeah, I'm more, yeah, give the ball to the official, act like you've done it before and celebrate with your teammates.
Awesome. All right. Before I get to my final question, I want to thank you so much for being a part of the program today, taking time out of your busy schedules, like we talked about earlier, to speak with us and all the students here for the last, 45 minutes to an hour. But my last question is, Christian, we'll start with you. We've talked a lot of great things today, but if there's one message or one tip or trick or idea you want the students to leave with today, we could have talked about it already, couldn't have brought it up. What is that one idea that you want them to leave with today?
Yeah, I mean, definitely for your college students, like we mentioned before, get involved with your sports information department. Maybe for some of those students that are close to if the NFL is what you want to pursue, if it's another sports league, let's say you're at Temple and you're in Philly, reach out to the Eagles, reach out to the Flyers, reach out to the Phillies, get your name out there and don't be afraid, whether the experience, whether it's paid, not paid, if you can make it work, try your best to make that work. Because once you graduate, those candidates that have that experience on their resumes, those are the ones that are at the top of the pile. So definitely get that experience. And like Matt mentioned earlier, don't be afraid to cast a wide net. At one point I lived in 4 cities in 4 years. And the experiences that I had in those different cities, I wouldn't give them up for anything. I was able to meet my wife in Pittsburgh, and now we have our own family here in Indy. So, and even too, growing up in Florida, Indiana wasn't necessarily probably where I envisioned myself long term, and this is home. This is where we're supposed to be, and our roots are planted here. So definitely, cast a wide net. Don't be afraid to, as Matt said, move somewhere you've never been before, be uncomfortable, because it really is, it's amazing, the sports industry, it's amazing where it can take you. And like I mentioned before, just very fortunate to be a part of it.
Matt, same thing for you.
Yeah, so obviously would second what Christian says on get as much experience as you can. I guess to elaborate on that too, what I would tell you is use that experience to figure out whether or not you have a passion for this industry. I am working my dream job. This is what I wanted to do. I sucked at sports. I knew I would never play. So how was I going to be connected? This was my avenue. I wanted to do nothing else. I didn't explore anything else. This is it. So I'm working my dream job. What I will tell you is, as awesome as it is, we're working for an NFL team. It doesn't get any better, right? It is a grind. It is a grind of a schedule, and there are a ton of responsibilities, and the job is fast paced, and there's long hours, and you have to have a passion for what you do. So when you get that internship or you get that whatever experience it is, really stay in tune with yourself to make sure that this is what you want to do. We've had interns come in and say, "Hey, thanks so much. They've done a great job," and they're like, "This isn't for me. I don't like the lifestyle," and that's completely fine. That's completely fine, right? They still did their job. They still did a great job, but really make sure that this is what you want to do, and because that passion is going to be what keeps you going every day. It's really, really important. So fortunately, we've got it, and our staff has, and we're in a great spot. But make sure you think about those things when you're getting your experience as well.
Awesome. With that, we're going to wrap up this installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Before the Snap series today, featuring Matt Conti and Christian Edwards, the VP and Director of Football Communications with the Indianapolis Colts. Again, both gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of the program today, and giving all these great tips and tricks to that next generation of students who hopefully will be in these seats that we're all in one day down the road. As always, make sure you're staying tuned in to all of the things here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Like, follow, subscribe, comment, whatever it might be on any of our social media platforms. Same with the Indianapolis Colts. We got a big draft coming up here in a couple weeks. So make sure we're stay tuned to all the great content going to be coming out on social media from both us here in Canton, Ohio, as well as the Colts there in Indianapolis. Only a few more Before the Snap programs left. We got 2 left remaining this school year. And our next one's going to be next Friday, April 12th. We're going to have Aniko Samoji, who works with the Los Angeles Rams in their IT department. So going to be outside of my realm, probably talking about things that I don't understand. But we're going to be interesting to hear about a really new and unique and awesome career path that we haven't really discussed here on Before the Snap. So from myself, from Jerry, all of our team here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, from our special guests today, Christian and Matt, to everybody who tuned in, thank you.